Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening, whatever time you're listening, it's the Steelers Hangover. Now, usually we do this show about 24 hours after a Steelers win or a loss, but because of the Thursday night wackiness the other night, we are going ahead and starting it on our regular time on Thursday. So you've had a lot of time to digest. And if you watched that, I'm just going to call it a debacle. If you watched that debacle the other night, there's lots of things to digest. There's still more things to digest. And no better person to digest it with me than my good friend, Tony Defeo of Behind the Steel Curtain. Tony D, what is up, my friend?
Hey Brian, happy Monday. I know it's a happy Monday for both of us today, and especially you. But anyway, it's an inside joke. But I think we needed 3 or 4 days to get over that hangover. That was a pretty ugly game on Monday.
Yeah, I tell you
First
what,
or Thursday.
that was kind of, we joke about it all the time. That's a face down in a ditch hangover, is what that is. That's my life stinks and there's no tomorrow. That's George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life, hoping for a guardian angel named Clarence. So I'm hoping that, Tony, you could be my guardian angel. You could give me a reason to go on after a game like that, because man, that was ugly.
Mm.
That was 2 a.m. ugly, if you know what I'm talking about it. So, and Javman actually knows what I'm talking about in the live chat, where he said that's a just take it loss. If you've listened to the Hangover the other day, I guess I'm pretty infamous now. I do just want to say that any of my comments that I said about hooking up at 2 a.m. were not meant to be offensive to ugly people, because I'm an ugly person and I know that, and I feel fine that that a lot of my success over the years has been after 2 a.m. In my early years. Now I'm happily married and I don't have to worry about that now. But all I'm saying is that was an ugly loss from the Steelers, and we've been used to some ugly wins in the last few weeks, and so we just have to move on. But as for my comments, if I did offend somebody, I'm really sorry. But the bottom line, it was meant in humor too, and so I think we're pretty good, and a lot of people had a good laugh over that. But I do believe, as a community, ugly or pretty, we're all in this Steeler Nation together, especially this BTSC family, and I'm glad to be with you. Now, a lot of people want to go ahead and jump in on the live chat. Feel free to do so. We'll go ahead and take your questions a little bit later in the show. If you do have a super chat, where you go ahead and throw some money in the tip jar, we do try to put you at the top of the line. However, if you really want to support the show, and those proceeds do support the show, but if you really want to support the show, the number way to do it is subscribe and hit that like button, because we're going for those 5,000 subscribers. We're really proud of the Steeler Behind the Steel Curtain universe that we have here, and so please continue. So I do appreciate it. So with that being said, let's kick this off, Tony, with the question of the day in the Steelers Hangover. Did the Steelers lose more than just a football game to the Cleveland Browns in Week 11 of 2019 on Thursday night? What do you think?
Yes, I think they lost half of their offensive roster. Juju, James Conner, Deontay Johnson. Yikes. And now they lost their playoff spot, but that's temporary. I wouldn't worry about that as much if not for the injuries. But yeah, they definitely lost a little bit after that game for sure.
Yeah, I think they did, because, but I'm actually going a little bit of a step further. They lost because of injuries. That's true. They do have a loss in the loss column, and they are now 5-5 again, and they've lost ground, and that's true. But did they lose momentum, and did they go ahead and did they lose a little credibility? Because we're going to talk about the entire situation at length, because this is the sign over, not the sign over, excuse me, the hangover, and we're going to talk about everything. But do you feel that look, it takes two to tango, and I'm not saying anything about I'm not saying anything at all that Myles Garrett's his behavior was irreprehensible. There was absolute talk about that.
I see what you're getting at now.
But look, and you had a lot to say about this in your articles, and I do respect that. And I have a problem with victim anyway, but there still does take somebody to go ahead and start this situation. And but a lot of people are missing something. So they're saying that Mason Rudolph started this whole thing. And I say, absolutely not. He did not start it. And this is not from a Steeler apologist, because I have a lot to say about Mason Rudolph and the entire thing. But everything that I've heard, every podcast, every single situation that we have talked about, I was wondering, how come nobody's talking about these two things? One, there's 8 seconds left in the game. Well, actually, let's say there's 30 seconds left in the game. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's time left in the game. 2 consecutive plays, they rush the passer and there's a sack. You're up 14. With 8 seconds left, you go ahead and rush the passer again. That's number one. That's the first thing. Was that ridiculous? Let's just stop there for right now. Was that ridiculous that they're rushing the passer so brutally in that last series? We talk about the offense taking a knee. Shouldn't the defense drop back into prevent and let's say take a knee in that situation?
Yeah, I thought it was overkill. I thought they were trying to prove a point by beating up their longtime tormentors on national TV in primetime television, and any smart coach would have taken his best defensive player, his best overall player in many ways, and Myles Garrett out of that game just to preserve him for the next week. And as it turns out, he really shot himself in the foot because he lost him for the rest of the year. But yeah, it was definitely overkill.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I understand an exclamation point, and that's like, yeah, I like how you said your longtime tormentor finally won, but you could do it by celebrating on the sidelines.
Right.
And I thought it was disgusting that the Browns were celebrating that helmet, that hit to the helmet right away. And laughing and Mac Wilson and everything. So I understand that. So I thought that was pretty disgraceful.
Yeah.
So with that being said, so that's number one. Number two, you know what we're forgetting about? How did Mason start it when he was body slammed on the play? And the other thing that I want to talk about here is there's no flag on that.
Right.
The referee just stood there.
Yeah.
And then they come to it. Then they throw flags then. But there was no flag on the initial play. That's roughing in my mind when you body slam a guy.
Right.
The only places where it's legal to body slam a guy is WWE.
Right. And we saw how that affected a Steelers game a few weeks ago against the Ravens when Ola was called for far less, and that changed the end of the game at the end of regulation. If they don't call that roughing the passer on Lamar Jackson, they probably win that game. So there's so much inconsistencies in the NFL, and if they throw a flag there, maybe there isn't a big brawl at the end of the game.
You know what? And I realize that and that's exactly correct. And I realize that, there's no way the Steelers can win. And, of course, there's going to be sour grapes. I'm sour about losing, but, let the Steelers, if you're the Browns, let the Steelers be bad losers. And at this point, you did two things. Okay. You actually let the Steelers off the hook for how bad they were. Okay.
Right.
You also, even though, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, the Browns were pretty crappy in that football game.
They didn't look that great either.
They did not. If there was a team with any semblance of an offense, the Browns would have never won that game. The Steelers had so many chances, but you still celebrate. Just like I was talking about the other night about exploits after 2 a.m. You're going to celebrate it, but you're not going to brag about it, right?
Right.
But for this point, I just have a problem with the body slam, with the fact that there was no penalty. The penalty does nothing, but they were going to let it go,
right,
until they had to do something. So once again, there's the problem with the NFL referees. So they could do everything they want. They don't care anything. They don't care anything about the player's safety. They don't care about it. I mean, sure, if they overturn the suspension or reduce it, that means they don't care about the players. This has nothing to do with the Steelers.
Right.
This was a terrible act. Now, do I think that the authorities should get involved? No. I mean, I don't. Do I think Marquise Pouncey should get his suspension reduced? Not really. I love Marquise Pouncey, and I love that he went to his player's aid. Kind of expect, and other guys went to his aid. I watched James Washington sprint there. I watched a lot of things. People come to their aid. People handled it differently. DeCastro took him down. He handled it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Pouncey went all prison on him. It was like a prison riot. And you know what? That's the guy I want to take down a dark alley with me that I know is going to have my back. When we asked this question about 9 months ago in the offseason, who would you take down a dark alley with you? A lot of people said Big Al because he's an Army Ranger. No, I want to take either Vince Williams or Marquise Pouncey because they're just badass dudes that know how to go on the street. And
I had no problem with what he did. No problem.
When I say go on the street, please don't take that the wrong way. When I say go on the street, they're street smart, and that's what I'm saying. And they know how to fight. I do appreciate DeCastro. I appreciate Filer. They tried, but they did it in their own way, and that's fine. I appreciate Pouncey. You still have to. You gotta find it. I mean, you have to go ahead and go both ways. But as far as things go, that was just one of the ugliest moments in Steeler history, in NFL history, that I ever watched. And I always said that I'm going to try to pay attention less to the live chat, but I got to bring this up. Bad. Just imagine if Mike Pouncey was also on our team. Wes, that would be. Well, I've thought about that. I have definitely thought about that. Those guys, they know how to mix it up. And so here you go. And I don't want to make a joke about it, but I love the loyalty of a guy like Pouncey. I love that. I understand more fines are coming down, and I expect Mason to go ahead and get fined as well. And he had a part in it. That's fine.
Right? Yeah.
Whatever he did, whether he did Mason kick him in the nuts?
No, it's been disputed. It's been refuted by video evidence. People keep saying that because of the still shots on Twitter, but that's all BS, for lack of a better word. If you look at the video, he was just trying to get him off him when Garrett was yanking on his helmet and yanking it off his head when he was on the ground. So that's just propaganda by Browns fans or whoever wants to try to put more blame on Rudolph than is necessary, because he wasn't trying to kick him in the groin.
George Teston, never go down a dark alley again if you're going to take me and Tony, because that's just a bad move.
We would push you and run the other way.
Well, no, I wouldn't. No, I would mix it up. I'm a dirty fighter, but I haven't fought since 1986. But I would fight dirty. I mean, I would probably fight dirty, and I think nobody is surprised about that, because I would go ahead and I would do whatever it takes. If somebody says, you know what, I'm going to be honest with you. You can call me what you want. But if Mason Rudolph had kicked them in the jewels, I wouldn't have a problem with it. You know why? Because when you're in a prison fight, when you're in a fight for, I know that wasn't a fight for his life, but when someone's fighting you dirty, you fight dirty back. And I don't have a problem with it. So there you go. How do we wrap that? How do the Steelers move on from this? Because I think they lost a lot. And I think they lost. I mean, I'm not saying they lost credibility, but now you have the Sidney Crosby effect, the Tom Brady effect on a guy like Mason Rudolph, because of the victim shaming, which I do have a problem with.
Yeah,
you have him.
Baloney.
Yeah, but it's still there.
Oh, I know.
We can't dispute it. You have the fact that he is now they're putting the little whiny B word on him, which you know what? If we were smart enough to take Tom Brady back in 2000, instead of T. Martin,
Mhm.
I'd be glad to have that guy for 17 years on my team. May have worked out a whole lot different. Who knows? But I'm just saying, and I'm proud to be a fan of. I am definitely proud to be a fan of Sidney Crosby also. So, but if somebody's on top of you, yeah, you're probably going to grab his helmet. You're going to do whatever you can. You're getting beat. I mean, you just got body slammed. You've got a guy on top of you. You're at the bottom of the pile. Yeah, you're going to fight. And so I don't have a problem with Mason Rudolph. In fact, I look at Mason Rudolph as being a lot tougher than I ever thought. And I'm proud to have him on my team. I think I need his skills to go ahead and be a better quarterback. And that's the bottom line. I know she's not going. I need to stop here a second. I know she's not going to go on camera, but I do want to say something here. I got to tell you, I've got a wonderful on Mickey Mouse's 91st birthday, and she just brought me a cup of cocoa, and she's smiling, but she won't go on camera. And now she's running up the steps. But this is where I'm blessed, so I just want to go ahead and bring that up. So I have some cocoa for the rest of the show, Tony. But so how do we go ahead? How do we move on from this? And I want you to help me out in the live chat. How do we go ahead and move off this?
Just the way they did in the offseason when they were embroiled in the controversy with Antonio Brown. Just keep your mouth shut and just move forward. It was an ugly scene. There's no way to dispute that. I mean, you have to, it was a fight. It was an ugly fight at the end of an ugly loss, but you just have to move forward. And you keep your mouth shut. You prepare for Cincinnati as best you can with the injuries, and you go into next week's game and you take care of business. And then next thing you know, people aren't talking about. Well, I guess they would be talking about it because you're playing the Browns in 2 weeks. But I think for right now, the best way to move on from it is just business like they did in the off season. Remember the kumbaya, all that was going on in the off season. Well, it's time to get back to that.
Okay, so now let's look at the positive of this whole thing. Do the Steelers, Tony, come out as a stronger unit because they know they have one another's back?
Oh yeah, I mean I think that's they came into the season as a stronger unit because they realized that they grew closer after everything that happened with Antonio Brown and everything. And I mean, if you saw it, we just talked about how Pouncey reacted. I mean, and few people seem to have a problem with what he did because I think they realized. I mean, this is you saw your teammate. He could have been seriously injured, and he went to bat for him. I mean, he really went after him. So I think this is it's gonna galvanize them as a team. Whether it helps them win or not, it's easier said than done with all the injuries, but it's definitely going to make them closer.
Well, you know what? If anything could help you out and fix things, it's going to play Cincinnati. But
Right.
the problem with fixing what ails you is you're going to go without James Conner probably. Juju is not only in the concussion protocol along with Deontay Johnson. He's also has a knee, and I don't know how deep that goes.
Actually, before we came on the air, I was on Twitter, and Jerry Dulac, who's an insider for the Post-Gazette, he said per sources it doesn't look like he's going to play. So there's some more bad news.
Okay, and I respect Dulac completely. So going forward now, everybody's looking at the guys that are on their couch. And at this time, we always talked about if a guy's on their couch right now and nobody else wants him, why would you want him? But do we suspend that now? Because when you're going with James Washington is your best receiver, and you're going with guys like Johnny Holton, who, look, his speed's amazing, but he can't catch a cold sore in a brothel.
Yeah,
really,
one catch all year.
Catch. Herpes, he's not going to get it.
Nope.
He's not going to get that sore.
Nope.
You know why? He's not catching anything. So it is not Frank Webb, Jeff Hartman. It is Ralph Webb. And Ralph Webb will deliver greatness if he makes the 53-man roster and gets a helmet. I will tell you that. Jeff used to joke about Webb, who I was high on back in January. And now that he's back with the team, he can fix what will ail the team. So I would love to see. Ralph Webb's pretty fast. He actually played in a couple games with a preseason last year with the Patriots. So so here's the thing. So we're talking about the guys on their couch. There's some names that have popped up, and some names you go ahead and look at. Of course, there's Dez Bryant. Everybody, like the last 3 or 4 weeks, you've heard Dez Bryant like crazy. So now, not just that, Terrell Pryor jumped in and said, "Hey, I'd love to play for the Steelers."
Yeah. And
the thing with Terrell Pryor is the fact that, he never wanted to be with the Steelers before because of all the distractions, and he said he didn't want to sign with them. The last couple times he's played with, I believe, Buffalo and Jacksonville and the Jets, I mean, they were not stellar performances, but I mean, you've got Tevin, oh my gosh, Tevin Jones, I believe, number 14. Right. And
how about Calvin Benjamin's out there? There's a guy who's younger than everybody else. He's younger than Pryor. He's younger than Dez. I don't even know why he's a free agent. I don't know what the deal it was with Kansas City. Maybe maybe he wants too much money. But I mean, how about somebody like that? I mean, there's a few guys out there that I would definitely take a flyer on one of those guys at this point.
And let's throw out another name here too. And that other name would be Alex Collins, late of the Ravens, who got into some trouble. So you have that too. I want to mention, Wes was just up on the screen. Deon Kane's going to be a very good addition in his opinion. I think Deon Kane, I don't know much about him. I mean, he definitely has some all-star speed, but so does Johnny Holton. Right. Can he catch? So that's the thing. And you don't have a whole training camp. You don't have mini camps to get these guys together. So at that point, you could bring in these young guys, or bring a guy in on a minimum deal that could go ahead, that have had success in this league, and see if they could be plugged in a whole lot quicker. I'm not one of those quick fix guys, but in this situation, is it time to think about it? I mean,
absolutely.
You're in desperation mode at this point.
I would feel much more comfortable with a veteran guy like that on this roster right now than I would. No offense to him, Deon Kane and Tevin Jones and those guys. I mean, come on. I mean, your number 3 receiver next week might be Johnny Holton or Tevin Jones. I don't even know who's better at this point, but I mean, come on, they're in a worse situation than they were in 2016 when they had Antonio Brown and nobody else because of all the injuries. So, I mean, I think they if they're serious about making the playoffs, then I think they should definitely try to make a move, try to reach out to one of those guys.
I do not believe Antonio Callaway is suspended, Chris Lawrence. Wow, that's another guy, but he's had a lot of issues.
Right.
But is he a guy that you bring in too? That he's a good player. Here is what you need to know about Deon Kane. He has speed. He has a big body. His hands, unfortunately, are inconsistent, but he's also been buried in depth at Indy and hasn't had a lot of opportunities. Well, you're gonna go ahead and get some opportunities now, so that's a good thing. Apparently, I did miss this. Callaway is suspended for 10 games, so he is not a guy to go ahead and be in there. Also, Wes mentions that Holton should be a gunner, and nothing else. Now, I'm going to get completely crazy on you guys. Now, I think you guys are going to go nuts when I mention this name, because not the best receiver, but knows the system. DHB. Darius Hayward-Bay. Played on the team last year. Or am I just...
I didn't even think of that, but you're right. I mean, I don't know what his health situation is right now. I don't know if is he on another roster? I guess
no.
Not, so.
I do not believe he is.
Yeah, well, why not? He's a veteran. He was a good locker room guy. I mean, it can't be any worse than what they have, in my opinion. It can't be any worse than trying to go with Tevin Jones as your slot receiver or whatever on Sunday.
And another guy we're for you, 4TL Music Group. Can we go ahead and bring him up? We forgot about Eli Rogers, and 4TL did not forget that. He's thinking Eli before DHB. Yeah, you know, that's another guy too. So we need speed. Forget DHB. I think DHB 2 years ago was clocked as the fastest on the team, going 21 miles per hour.
Yeah, that's his calling card is speed.
Yeah, so I mean, and what's he, a 31-year-old guy? I'm sure he's lost a little bit of him, but he's pretty fast. You know what? I'm just gonna let's bring up George Teston here, because I think you could say this about all these guys. Bring him in.
Bring him in.
Bring him in. You know what? You guys have an opportunity to maybe add somebody, have a tryout. If they stink, they stink. Bring them in, give them a workout.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you look at all these comments, it's like, no Des Bryant, no Kelvin Benjamin. Well, why not? What do you have to lose? I mean, you want to make the playoffs or not? So, I mean, you know, this is like I said last year, it's threat level midnight, like Michael Scott. You know, they're really in a bad way here on this offense. I mean, they have nothing. James Conner is going to be out again, likely. So, I mean, you need weapons.
Last season, when I mentioned threat level midnight for the first time, that's the first time I think I made you laugh.
It's good stuff.
I love
Michael Scott.
Threat level midnight. So BTSC Steelers Radio. I'm assuming that's Jeff, or it could be Dave. I'm not sure which one, but which position is more of a concern with the injury situation? Is it running back or wide receiver at this point? Tony?
I think it's got to be wide receiver, because so many of them have gone down recently. I mean, I think they're used to dealing with the loss of James Conner. This will be his fourth game in a row, or 3 out of 4, whatever it's been. And so they're used to compensating for him. And Jalen Samuels has a bit of a background, even though he hasn't had a great year running the ball. But the wide receiver position, I mean, you lose 2 of your top 3 guys in a matter of a quarter on Thursday. That's definitely the bigger concern.
So we've got a little battle here on the live chat between Dave and Jeff, though. That is Jeff doing that, putting that in, and I would think it was Jeff, because I don't think Dave would write "Dave sucks." And you know what? Those guys have a great respect for each other, so I think that's hilarious. Now we have Jeff blows, so great. We're really.
It looks like the game thread.
You know what? I'm going to take credit for that, guys. So, Tony, the reason I'm going to take credit for it, because those guys, those two, were the most respectable human beings until they got on a show with me, and I think I've corrupted them. So
you're the Bobby Heenan to their whatever.
I am Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
I'm Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Right.
4TL Music Group. Also, guys, why did Ben have the luxury of a quarterback coach and Rudolph none? No wonders they're scared to throw past 6 years.
Randy Fickner is the quarterback's coach. I mean, I don't think that's why he's afraid to throw past 6 yards. I think they're just afraid they don't want him to turn the ball over. I guess they're just being really conservative. At least they were early on.
So look, you know I'm not a Fichtner guy. I'm definitely not. I've noticed something that I was actually, I don't want to say impressed with, but it raised my eyebrows that even though they were struggling, he was on the bench field. Fichtner was sitting down with Mason Rudolph, and they were working. So there you go. At least we've got something that is showing me that he will try to coach this guy. So really interesting. Mr. Marcus 37. I kind of like this. Let's see, where was that? Big Ben is Mason's quarterback coach. You know what? I mean, maybe he is. Now Mason Rudolph's come out and said that Big Ben's been helping him a lot, and which surprised some people because of the comments last year. But I mean, Ben was just being honest, just like Alan Faneca was being honest when he was talking about Ben. Maybe he's just a better quarterback coach. Getting bent with Bo says that. Bo, you're correct, because I agree with you there. And the reason I agree with you there is the fact that what were we saying about Keith Butler? We're saying that he is a better linebacker coach than he is a defensive coordinator. And just like somebody's going to say here, just like Freddie Kitchens is a better a coordinator, just like Wade Phillips is a better defensive coordinator than he's ever been a coach. And just we could go on and on and on. North Turner, probably one of the best examples of that as well. So, I just don't think that he is a great offensive coordinator, but he was a decent quarterback coach for 10 plus years. So there you go. 4TL Music Group mentions this: Minka saved his job. LOL. But that's true. I mean, I really did, because after the first 2 years, we were calling for Keith Butler's head. Minka saved the season. You know who else, as far as like the season on defense, saved his job? But you know who else did? And he does not get credit for this? Vince Williams. People don't understand that rushing defense was not great until Vince Williams came back. So I want to throw that in. Vinny Vici, very important to Keith Butler having a job right now as well. He should kiss his fat head every night. If he has a fat head of Minka, and should have a fat head of Vince as well. Isn't Dez Bryant recovering from an injury?
Like a year ago, like a year or so ago.
Yeah, I know he broke his leg, but I think he can. I think he is recovering from that as well. Let's continue with the live chat. Go ahead if you do have any questions, and remember, how you support this show more than anything is coming on, being a part of the live chat, but hitting like, subscribing, and telling your friends about it too. We love our BTSC community. And you know what? We always joke about this, but everybody, we joked about, dark alleys, and George was going to take you and I down a dark alley so we could have us back. But I love how everybody in this live chat has everybody's back. And if somebody comes on the live chat as a troll, they chase them off. They're like guard dogs, and they definitely
strength in numbers, like we saw on Thursday.
December 15th, when you, Dave, and I are hanging out at Heinz Field, it's like we don't have to get a security detail. We've got BTSC.
That's right.
They're going to be our security, but no one wants to. No one wants to really.
I'll have to write a lot of nice articles between now and then, just to cover myself.
My kids hate my dad jokes as well. They're embarrassed, but now my son, he's 12, he's starting to tell the same jokes. So, and I got them naturally from my dad. Should we bring in a guy like CJ Anderson or Alex Collins? I would bring CJ Anderson in first. You know what? What's it hurt?
Yeah.
What's it hurt? Just a hotel room and a flight in to go ahead and bring these guys in for a tryout.
And what is CJ? Yeah, what has CJ Anderson lost between last year and this year, when he came in and basically saved the Rams running game? And he was like their best running back down the stretch. So what has he lost that in that short period of time?
Yeah, I would bring CJ in a heartbeat. That's what Getting Bent with Bo says. And you know what? They should have done that last year. Wow, he found 40 pounds that quick?
How do you know that? How did they know that? Well, he is the editor, so I guess he probably has his ways.
Yeah, Jeff knows.
Yeah.
remember the old days, Joe DiNardo, Joe said it would.
Right.
Jeff knows. That's the next T-shirt.
Okay. Well, that was Dave.
Oh, that was Dave. Oh, wow. So Dave. Okay, Dave knows. That's the T-shirt. So we got strong editor and deputy editor going here.
Yeah.
So and they're hanging out on our show, and I've been actually watching their shows lately, which they will never give me credit for it. Ken McNair. Now
There he is.
You know what? I'm going to say this. And we used to talk about this with a hangover. Jeff named Vito a Hall of Famer. I got to tell you, because of the hangover on the Blog Talk radio days, we talk about the Blog Talk days. We've got all pros. We've got all pros on Blog Talk radio, and we talk about who they are all the time. And I've got to mention first team all pro. You could say it.
Ken from Jersey.
Ken from Jersey, all pro. He is definitely an all pro. And hey, we definitely have a whole bunch of all pros here now that we have found the Steelers Hangover here on YouTube and all the forums that we are on. Why do you think the offense doesn't try creative ways of jumpstarting the run game? Jet sweeps, wildcat pitches. We've seen that.
Yeah, we've seen all of it.
It's not sustainable.
Right, yeah.
Because John Harbaugh sniffs it out. The smart, look, you could surprise somebody with it, and maybe you do it and not telegraph it. Something that, we joke about everybody else, but I'll go ahead and give Dave Schofield credit with the fact that, he loves the Zach Banner thing, but he's like, look, stop with the whole Zach Banner thing all the time, because they know what's going to happen. If you're going to do it, at least because you're bringing Zach Banner and you're bringing Johnny Holton. So right. Everybody knows what's going to happen. So I love the fact that he said that. And that's true. Just go ahead and, now we're bringing up Tree Archer. But if you're going to do stuff like that, get creative. That's the bottom line to the whole thing. What happened to Chris Rainey? He hate me's brother. Hey, did he hate me die?
I don't know.
I think Rod Smart died. That's a half brother of He Hate Me. Chris Rainey was, and so I'm not sure. You know what? We could bring up a whole bunch of guys to bring in, but hey, you know what? If CJ Anderson's fat, let's find out if he's fat. Bring him in for a tryout and say, hey, he came in overweight. We won't sign him. But if you can go ahead and bring a guy like Alex Collins in, if he's not in trouble with the league, yeah, he might. You know what? He might have a 4-game suspension. Anderson for fullback. There, you need a fullback. Right. We've got Sutton Smith, guys. That's all you need to know. Anderson. When did that happen?
Squad.
Okay.
Today. This is the practice squad, though.
Okay. And so Webb's, we signed Ralph Webb, and now Quadri Henderson. Did we drop Sutton Smith? They've dropped Sutton Smith so many times, I cannot keep track. The funny thing is, he reminds me of Rod Smart is still alive. Great. I thought I read something about him. Well, great. I'm glad he's still alive, because I hate to hear when I heard the Charlie Rogers news last week, stuff like that. I always hate to hear that. So I'm very glad to hear that Rod Smart is still with us on this earth. Where did I hear that, and why was I thinking that? I don't know. Lots of stuff goes on in this melon here. There's to quote the great late Myron. Stuff rolling around in my cranium is insane. If you had a timeshare in my brain, you'd probably either want to stay there for a year, because it would just be a freak show, or you would just run screaming. And it's one of two things. So with that said, let's go back to the live chat. Any questions you do have for Tony and Bryan Anthony Davis, please let us know. But once again, we are glad to have you on here. And remember, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please go ahead and hit the like button if you do indeed like us. Mr. Marcus 37. the Pittsburgh Steelers much more set on the year and developing young talent, not so much with veterans. Okay, yeah, you know what? I mean, that seems what they're doing, and I understand. But what is the at this point? You still have to go for the playoffs.
Right.
You're the number 8 seed, and you're not too far out now. The Texans are having some issues right now. You expect the Colts to the Colts have a very tough schedule. The Raiders don't, but they're still the Raiders. They have the Chiefs coming up. Something interesting tonight, and if you've seen our rooting guide, if you're rooting tonight, you're rooting for the Chargers like crazy tonight. If the Chiefs lose, so if the Chiefs go ahead and lose, they're going to end up probably in the wild card situation, especially if the Raiders could go ahead and beat them. So that's another possibility that the Chiefs might play themselves out. Javman, is it Javman or is it Javman? I think when I see JAV, I'm thinking Jav as in Java, like coffee. So I'm going to go with Javman. If it is Javman, let me know. What are the keys to winning this weekend, Tony?
Oh, I think you have to get back to getting after the quarterback. You saw what they did to the Bengals the first time they played them. They tortured the quarterback. So I think that's where you start. You have to create opportunities for the offense and put it in prime position. And I think you have to get Jalen Samuels, kind of involve him like you did against the Colts. Little short passes out of the backfield, maybe even as a receiver. Split him out wide and have him try to get cause some mismatches downfield. I think that's what they have to do. They have to make him the focal point.
You know what? Argue with that. I was thinking Jalen Samuels is my number one thing right now. I'd also look. I'm going to go a little bit further. Open holes for the guy.
Yeah.
And be creative. I mean, you don't have to be trickery creative. You can't telegraph everything you do. And that's when I was talking about what Dave Schofield was saying earlier, that I really respect this, that, if you're going to do stuff like having Zach Banner in as eligible, that's fine. But Joe, just don't make it predictable.
Right.
Be versatile. And
throw it to him if you have to.
Yeah, I don't care. I heard that he has worse hands than Moncrief and Johnny Holton combined. Earlier this year, says Wes, Rod Smart was reported missing by his family. Was found not long after that. Might be where you got that impression. Good. I mean, yeah, good. At least I'm not crazy. I'm crazy in many other ways, but I was wondering what was going on with that. Because I knew I was thinking about something there. That wild card spot is going to be a logjam. Remedy this. Cool name. Remedy this.
But isn't it great that they're in it? I mean, who would have thought they'd be even in the discussion a month ago? So, they've worked pretty hard to get themselves back in the race. So there's that anyway.
Yeah, with that being said, I think I don't know if this is something coming on both of our ends, but we are both seem to be frozen here on my end as far as everything goes. With the live chat is just stuck, so I hope that we are still going strong on this end, but I seem to have it to be a little bit stuck. So as far as everything goes, yeah, that wild card spot is going to be tough, but if you start winning games again, you should be okay.
Right.
So, Tony, I'm sorry.
No, you just have to, win this weekend and take it from there. There's plenty of time left.
Exactly. So, with that being said, I am having some problems on this side of the ball, and I do not want to ruin a fantastic show with some great commentary, and I appreciate everybody coming in. No longer seeing anything pop up on the live chat. Not seeing anything because I do have a frozen screen, so I feel like I am copping out on you. and I do apologize. But so we're going to go ahead and take this as an opportunity to wrap everything up, Tony. So we talked about the keys to go ahead and win this weekend. And oh, great, I am back. So fantastic. I don't know what that was, so I do apologize for that. We don't have to wrap everything up. Snowman asks, and $5, and I do appreciate that. Do you think the Steelers will change some of O-line besides Pouncey? So what are we looking at? We're looking at BJ Finney as your center this week. With that, we still have Ramon back. We have DeCastro. AV needs to get it together. Big Al definitely needs to get it together. I think you still have Filer in there. And if Filer doesn't go for some reason, it's not Banner that comes in. It's Chooks, because Banner is his own position now.
Right.
So it seems like if somebody has to spell one of those guys, it's Chukwuor. So do you see them changing it at all?
No, I mean, it's like you said, AV and Filer have to pick up their games. I mean, they played like projects on Thursday, and they were schooled by top end talent, and maybe that's going to happen sometimes, but they're starters, so they're going to have to figure out a way to win some of those matchups. And they have another, the Bengals have a pretty decent front seven. Carlos Dunlap, and I think Geno Atkinson's still there, so they're no slouches. They're veterans, but they got to get their act together this week.
Yeah, it's true, and they gave the Raiders in Oakland a hard time. We still don't know really who the Raiders are right now, though, so that could go either way. But this is their Super Bowl this year. Tony, I just saw a couple things pop up on the live chat that Dave put up there for us. It's talking about if the Steelers lose to the Bengals, that season's over. And Bo went as far as saying that if the season's over, if they lose to the Bengals, Bo, not acceptable. You're part of the family. We're going to go through this through thick and thin, and we're going to have fun doing it. I mean, even if we're losing,
games. Yeah, there's only 16 games. You got to what? You got to
even if we're losing.
Yeah,
I do not accept your resignation, Bo. You're too important to the show. We appreciate you. So you cannot leave if they lose to the Bengals. This is our support group. We'll get through it together. So we still have Lance's vote. Have Jeff and Dave, and they still have a chance to vote, but I'm going to vote nay. Bo can't leave. Tony?
He can't leave. No. I mean,
nope.
Like I said,
let it go.
Yeah. Sorry. It's ironclad. Your contract's ironclad now.
Yeah. There you go. We're like the WWE right now, who will not
right
go again. They will not at this point. Ryan Kellerman, we will win if Lance picks against us. Let's see if we can get Lance to pick against the Steelers. And by the way, I don't know if I told you this. I told you that I started watching more and more of everybody else's podcast. One, because I was said to be a horrible teammate that doesn't support anybody else. But I do really enjoy them. I gotta give Lance credit. I said it the other night, right after the entire Cleveland debacle was just absolutely, it was pure entertainment. I absolutely loved it. If you get a chance to go back and listen to Lance Williams, and I said it, that's a fantastic show. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think all of these shows are great. But I really got a kick out of that show the other night. So check out, I said it. That one's not going to age. That's a really good one. So that was just from Friday night, but also, not to be outdone, check out the Stat Geek segment that is tomorrow night as well. Can you go ahead and bring up that last quote? That last comment, Dave, that we had, because I did not quite see that. I want us to win. If we lose and we're out, I don't care. What I care about is seeing us improve through the rest of the season, says Wes. You know what? Yeah, you know what? Here's the deal. What you do when you're out of the playoffs really shows, and they're not out yet, but we're talking about the worst case scenario. And what to build for next season is really important. There's a couple ways to build for next season. It's called learning how to win. And with a lot of these young guys, it's learning how to win. Finding out what you really have at quarterback, that's another thing. And then going forward, just making sure that you keep on winning to go ahead and not feel bad about your purchase. And your purchase being Minkah Fitzpatrick, which we don't feel bad about it, but you don't want to see that pick drop down below, and you feel better when your team wins. So one thing I hate every year, Tony, is and let's keep that up for a second so I could read that after I go ahead and finish this thought. I hate when anybody says, let's just lose the rest of the season to get a better draft pick. And I hear that every year. Right. I mean, when they were 0-4 and 13 and they ended up 18-8, 8-8. I hated to hear that. Sure, I'd like a high draft pick. I like the fact that they had a high draft pick with Ben Roethlisberger, but I don't feel good when I watch them lose. They could be 0-15 and win the last game, and I'm like, I'm happy because they won a game. That's how I am as a fan. This year, you don't have to worry about it, because you don't have that number one pick, and so it's just where you pick in the second round, and who cares at that point? You're picking.
In my opinion, anybody that says I'd rather see them lose ... anything, it's just a hot take. Nobody wants to see if you're really a real fan, you can't root for your team to lose, and you probably deep down don't want it to happen. Nobody wants to sit through a 2-14 season just to get a draft pick next year that may or may not pan out. Marcus Mariota, something like that. So come on, you don't really mean that.
I did it once, and I'll get to that in a second. I believe this is Jeff. Like I said last night, if you want the Steelers to lose, all caps, to the Bengals just so a reserve player can come in, I'm revoking your fan card. There you go.
And he has that kind of power too. So,
well, he can't revoke fan cards. Just like my friends tried to revoke my man card when I took my mom to see Clay Aiken in concert in 2006 as a Christmas gift. It was a Christmas concert. Okay, that's Dave. That's Dave saying that. But they tried to revoke my man card. But I took my mom to see Clay Aiken. It's not like I was like going out with my gang and partying with Clay. It was a Christmas concert, for goodness sake.
Did you have a good time?
My mom, my mom got to shake his hand afterwards.
There you go.
It was like me and a whole bunch of women, like backstage, and this was like I said, this was 2006. All these screaming women.
So you're partying with a bunch of
outside
women
the door.
I'd say you're the winner there.
But there you go. Alex Flores, yes, our situation is much better than Chicago. That's probably that's an ugly situation there. Now, I did tease this, that I did root for a team to lose once, and I believe it was back, if I'm not, I believe it was 2010 or 2011, and I was rooting against the Pirates in September because I knew what kind of player Mr. Bryce Harper was going to be. And they were picking second that year, which ended up with Jamison Tyone. But I really, and I think they ended up 2 or 3 games back. And they really, in the end, they weren't going to catch Washington. When I say catch them and losing, but really rooting for them to go ahead and lose there. But it's a different situation. It's baseball, and they've already lost 100+ games at that point. And the player was right there, and I didn't have a problem with a week and a half of baseball left, and there was a player like that on the board. Maybe I sound like a hypocrite when I say it, but what are you going to do?
Right.
Do you agree with me on the Harper thing? Like, baseball's a different.
Oh yeah,
a different situation.
I mean, obviously that would have transformed their whole team. I mean, they had a pretty good run after that, but who knows? Bryce Harper might have actually taken them to the World Series. But now we're back to square one with that team. So that's a different podcast.
I mean, yeah, or they would have traded him for they would have traded him for like a a fourth starter that
Right.
played 4 games for the team. But really excited about the Ben Cherington experiment, so I'm glad that's coming up too. But that's a baseball show. This is a football show. We'll stay off of that. With that being said, Tony, let's go ahead and let's have last call. Was it 2 a.m., Job Man, with the laughing emoji? I'm going to be famous for 2 a.m. for the rest of my life. But hey, here's the problem thing about 2 a.m. And I mentioned this in Tony and I have our joint article, Point Counterpoint, coming up. The problem with 2 a.m., you just don't want to get to 3 a.m. and you get to the Matchbox 20 Rob Thomas scenario, because when it's 3 a.m., you know you're lonely. It's 3 a.m., I must be lonely. There you go. There's my singing for the day. I know that's a good time to wrap up the show when BAD gets his pipes going. So with that, it's last call. And so it's closing time. Another song from 1997, 1998, when that other song was out, when 3 a.m. So it's closing time. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. And with that, if you could also throw in an answer to Alex's question about our offensive identity as you wrap it up.
I know what it should be. It should be James Conner should be the offensive identity, because I think we've talked about it for seems like 2 years. Whenever this offense, it's designed to go through a really good running back. Unfortunately, they can't. He can't stay healthy. So, what is their identity? Going into this Sunday, I really don't know, honestly.
That's you know what? There's nobody on the offense really. It's up for grabs. They have to actually, at this point, with everybody gone and James Washington as your number one receiver, and the possibility of bringing other people in. I mean, there's no Deontay Johnson even to go ahead and take the lead right now. That man was bleeding out of his ear.
Yeah, he's not going to play.
You don't expect to see him back right away, and nor do you want to. You got to make sure that guy's right before he comes back in. That was a massive hit. The Browns were playing for a lot more than to win that game, and I think they tarnished everything that they had going. I will say this, though. I'm going to give credit for a guy that I even challenged to a fight a few weeks back, Baker Mayfield. I did like what he went and said after the game, and he didn't stick up for his player. I mean,
right?
He really said, "Hey, no, we can't do that.
Right.
We need him, and now he's gone. That's inexcusable." I thought he grew up a lot in that game. I really appreciated that. Nap 1963 just invited me to play with his band, to sing with his band. I tell you what, my signature song is Hurts So Good. I don't know what kind of music you play. Hurts So Good, Jesse's Girl, stuff like that. If you give me some time, I will set that up, and I would love to have one song with your band. It would make my year. It would make my life just to sing lead. I'm horrible, but I want to sing in front of a band just once. And you give me a raspy song like that, I'll be okay. Smash that like button, y'all. 100 watching. Yes, I appreciate that. Remedy this. With that being said, Tony, we're going to move on. I'm feeling good about this week. Cincinnati Bengals, you're going out to the jungle, and where they will welcome us to the jungle. They've got fun and games. Do we have the game to go ahead and beat that team this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a thorough beating, but I think it could be pretty similar to the Week 17 last year. You just have to score enough on offense and maybe create a turnover or two on defense, maybe score a touchdown on defense like they have been doing. I look for like a 17-10 kind of game, 20-10, something like that.
All right, that sounds great. Special thanks to Dave Schofield, to Jeff Hartman for chiming in on the show, helping us out in the live chat. Fellas, appreciate you immensely. This is such a great show, and it's because of you. It's also a great show because of everybody in the live chat. Thank you so much. I love this BTSC family that we have. Tony, I appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
You too, my man.
And with that being said, I will talk to you next week. Well, I'm sure I'll talk to you on text like we always do. And you're seeing the scores. You're seeing everything up there with everybody predicting. I'm really hoping and I'm really thinking Steelers get back on track, and it's going to be a good hangover next week, one that we talk about for glowingly for about an hour with our friends. So with that being said, for Tony Defeo, for Dave Schofield, Jeff Hartman, for all of you in the live chat, and our Hall of Famer, Ken McNair, for him, good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And wherever you are, remember, you just got hungover.